Hello everyone, my name is still Kier, and this is probably the first real video that I'll post on this channel. I've done a bunch of mini montages and Rocket League stuff, but nothing long or anything like that. And I have a little bit of M6 footage here in the background, but I'm going to be talking about, as the title suggests, the best way to progress and be successful in Skyblock. Um, I think this topic is pretty misunderstood. And people often preach unattainable goals or just play the game um, in a way that's probably not healthy, right? And this is coming from someone who, in the past 6 or so months, I have like 1.7k hours. I have 2.4k cumulative playtime across both of my accounts. I have 12.5 build net worth, CATA 47, scale average 45, a whole bunch of stuff. If you want me to flex on you, go ahead and check my Sky sheet. But that's not really the point of this. But I guess it also serves as some sort of credentials, I guess, as to why you should listen to what I have to say. I also lose friends with a lot of players who are in a similar situation as me. I got to talk to a lot of top players throughout the last 6 months or so and kind of get their perspective on the game and how people view it. And I think that because I've struggled with the best way to play this for so long, like I and done all of this theory crafting, that I can say a little bit that most people won't be able to say, right? I might not be the most insane Skyblock player ever, and there's definitely people who are way better at the game, I guess, however you want to describe it, but that's not really the point. The point is, I think there's not a good guide out there right now that talks about how to set your expectations with pacing and how there's really just a whole bunch of different ways that you can play and be successful. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the problems that most people end up facing when they play Skyblock. And this is something that I have kind of gathered just from a lot of people asking me different questions. I spend most of my time playing this game in a call with friends, and I hang out pretty actively in different Discord servers. I'm sure at some point you can catch me around SBZ or Dungeon Gang Discords, just because I definitely play this game socially as well as to really progress and play it like completionists, right? Um, and I think a lot of it is because Skyblock is so min-maxy, and you really want to make sure that since the grind is so long, you want to make sure that your time is effective, right? And content keeps on coming out, so it can seem like you're just never gonna catch up, and there's not enough time, and additionally some things just aren't meta to do, so there's no point of doing it anymore. And there's people like Death Streaks who have every single thing maxed out, right? And that's because he played everything while it was meta, right? So that's a really easy way for him to justify it. And then a lot of people look at that and they say, oh, well, if Death Streaks was um, doing that, he was only doing it because it's meta. There's no point for me to get farming 50 ever, right? And if you look at my account, that's a similar way. That's what I thought when I started. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna get farming 50. There's no point. Like, it's better for me to do dungeons and get money. And yeah, in a way it is, right? But now like I'm farming 25, and that's something eventually you'll have to do. So what I'm saying is like, my first bit of advice is, um, don't be afraid to do not meta content, right? Because this is like not that bad. Like at the end of the day, like here, I'm gonna show you a clip from a YouTube video I watched recently about this RPG called New World, right? It's the one that Amazon released. It literally, like the full release of the game came out 2 days ago at the time of recording this. I don't know when I'm gonna post this because it's gonna take some time to get this all edited properly. But here, I'm just gonna let the clip roll real quick.
Theory crafting is normally done to achieve a goal, to get from the start to the end as quick as possible, to get from A to B with the least disruption in between. And the gameplay is normally the bit that happens between A and B. In Magic, you're crafting to win as fast as possible. In Warhammer, you're crafting to win as fast as possible. In RPGs, you're crafting to finish the game as fast as possible. In MMORPGs, when you theory craft, you're essentially saying, what is the least amount of time I can play this game for to achieve the maximum amount of gameplay, to get to the end as soon as possible? The irony being that the game you are efficiently playing through is the game. Are you theory crafting away the content? I've already made a video on Have Guides Ruined MMOs, and I think over the next few days the release of New World will actually really highlight the points I made in that video. The MMORPG is a forever game. It is designed to be played for many years, but they often don't launch with years of content, at least not for the hardcore players. They launch with enough content to sate a casual player, but these charts and graphics aren't for casual players. They are detailed step-by-step guides to blitz through the content as quickly as possible and get to the end game. And if you do this, I feel you may become somewhat disappointed when you realise the game you rushed through was the bulk of the actual gaming experience. If you enjoy playing efficiently, that's fine, but you must understand if you follow a step-by-step maximum efficiency guide, you are playing the game to consume the content as quickly as possible. So when you later turn around and say, wow, the game has no content, you'll have to realise it does, you just played it in a way to skip most of it. You achieved your goal, you reached the end quickly. Well done, enjoy having less to do. You played in a way to finish the game as fast as possible. You achieve that, you suddenly realise you've skipped the game.
Okay, so that's kind of a lot to unpack, so I'm just gonna take it and kind of walk through the thing step by step again. I wanted to put the whole clip in one section just so you could keep track of the points and it doesn't look like I'm snipping stuff for context. And it'll kind of just make that source look a bit stronger. But we do need to go back and talk a little bit about what I just watched with you. Um, so the beginning was talking about just the idea of theory crafting and min-maxing, right? Which is pretty much what most of the questions that I'll get is about, right? Um, and that is the same kind of journey I went through. Um, I did take some exceptions to that by like I think like the biggest thing I did that was kind of like against theory crafting is like I just like did not get a hype right away when I could, right? And at the time like dungeons was pretty much meta. But I took some time to make sure that I had good stats and stuff because it was a more healthy choice for the long haul, right? And if you look at my talisman bag now, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, of course he has like a one build tally bag plus in his account, like he's just rich. But like that was the way it was pretty much since I was like I wasn't buying Terminator because I didn't want to sell my hegemony artifact, for example, when I was doing E-Slayer and stuff. Um, but besides that, most players, myself included, we do look to min-max quite a bit. Um, and he makes the point that, you're just going to run out of content eventually, and you're going to be like, well, now I can't really do anything because, like, um, let's say you're in my situation right now, and you have a really nice mining setup, but mining gets boring after a while. And once you get there and you've done it, you're at the most recent update, you're doing a lot of mining, eventually it gets boring. I have like 400 million gemstone collection. Um, I'd rather do other things, but whenever I do anything else, it's like, well, could be mining right now. Like, that's really the only true content for a person like me because why else would you do anything, right? Um, so, I mean, I don't know if exactly he's right. Like you can always go back and fill in the gaps. Like I can go and get farming 60. I could go back and get foraging 50. I can go back and get fishing 50. But he does have a point. Like if it's something you're gonna have to do eventually anyway, I think it's not a bad idea to at least consider like the fact that you can skill grind right away. And there's a balance to be had with that, like everything. I think 30 Virus was a good example of somebody who probably should have invested in dungeon setup more. Um, he had like everything and like really good skills, like skill average 50, right? Before he even bought a hype. And money is not that hard to come across, like in Skyblock. I know it seems like that, but if you play and you don't really think about it too much and you just continue to play, you'll get it eventually. Um, that's another big thing. Um, so yeah, maybe he should have gone and not taken this advice too literally, but at the same time, there's so many people I know who are like investing their entire net worth into a dungeon setup or a mining setup, and they can't do anything else. So like they're locked to one part of the game, and yeah, that makes you more efficient if you're actually playing that much. But if you're like getting bored by the one thing that you've invested all your coins into, it can create this really vicious cycle of like um, selling stuff and buying stuff. I know some people who have lost a bunch of money doing that or just stagnated for a long time because they switch metas all the time because, they get bored, but they also don't want to play anything like inefficiently, right? So rather than have a bunch of little setups for different things, they have one big setup that they sell and transfer over to something else. And, usually that is coming with meta changes, and they end up losing some money every time they do that. There are exceptions to that rule. I've bought and sold different stuff as well and profited sometimes, and um, you know, you can flip as well. Like, there's ways to make money doing that, but I'd say the vast majority of people um, fall under that category of just moving back and forth between different metas. When I see people with like actual like really issues where they want to progress and they're trying but they can't, that's usually the problem. But that being said, the most important thing that you can do as a Skyblock player in order to figure out what's best, like for progression wise, is to figure out what's best for you. It's a big kind of like introspective um, kind of process, right? Maybe it's not so great to spend your money on eSlayer like the week it comes out if you can't play very often. If you're someone like me now who I have a lot of school stuff to do, I'm a comp sci major, um, and I won't be able to play as much. So like maybe if I was in somebody else's shoes or I didn't have um, a lot of money and I only had like enough for one setup, I maybe wouldn't invest it into eSlayer week one, right? Because prices are gonna drop. Um, And that's just one example, but there's a bunch of different things to consider as well. Like, um, I know I said like you gotta go and do farming, but at the same time, like farming is actually kind of useless. So if you don't really care that much about maxing out your account, you want to just have fun, like go and do that, right? But I feel like that's not the normal people who come in, um, like ask for advice, I guess. And farming was just one example. It's kind of the extreme version of the example. The more tame version is just like having good stats, maxing out your tally bag, at least trying to get like a setup for everything so you can adapt to metas and stuff like that. Um, and that's kind of the sweaty way to play Skyblock, I guess. Um, Here, the other thing I want to talk to is the idea of just like motivation while you're playing this game. Because it is an inherently grindy game, so it is very self-motivated, right? And it is totally okay to just like not play. And this is like most of you guys watching, are you'd be like, yeah, of course, like I know this, like I've taken breaks and stuff like that. But there are a couple of people out there that just, I want to talk to you. I know Billy, I know you're watching this video, and I know that you played for like 18 hours yesterday. I don't know if it was dungeons or farming or what you're doing right now to progress. Um, but I know you're miserable about it. And maybe there's another guy named Jared who's doing it for 18 hours a day and having the time of his life. But like, for that person, yeah, just step back. However, I've also seen it on the other end of the spectrum, and this is also very common. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a different story. This is a transition point right now in the video where I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about the early days of my account. And it's gonna sound pretty absurd, and that's because it is. Um, I had some crazy like early game RNG. I had a giant sword like run 21. I had handle like run 100. Um, so like the first 1 billion coins, on top of the fact that I was already playing like optimally at like 10 hours a day for that whole month. I made like 1 billion coins in my first month of playing, and continued doing that consistently, right? And even like it ended up being like almost a consistent 1 bill per month for I think the first 3 months because my RNG started to like really die off. Like even now, I would say overall it's averaged out where I'm actually kind of unlucky, but I got RNG when it was really important early game. Anyway, I also had like a couple of loans and stuff like that. Um, but I don't think that it is something that you should count on to have any sort of RNG or any sort of loans. I mean, you can play RNG parts of the game to level up, but it's not something that like you have to make sure that you're okay with the idea that you might be extremely unlucky. For example, for E-Slayer, I was pretty tilted um about it because I didn't get a core for like 700k XP or something. By the time I got core, it was completely useless for me because I had made enough money off of null spheres and stuff like that, um, to where I could buy some things. And I'd also gotten some contraband at the time, and from my boy Skuadash, and he ended up quitting. But just in general, like my whole situation, if you look at my account and be like, this guy's insane, um, it's okay not to match that level of progress because I was assisted by probably about 4 billion coins in contraband over my account's life. Most of that has come since I've reached like 4 billion net worth. I think all of it came afterwards. So in the grand scheme of things, most people are kind of aiming, I think, for that kind of 3 or 4 bill. There's exceptions, like I said, to everything. That's why I'm kind of talking to a bunch of different people, but like separately, right? I was talking about Billy, and now I'm talking about some other guy. Um, but yeah, you really can't rely on other people to. You can't rely on RNG, and you can't rely on other people to like give you loans. I'm gonna show you a clip real quick because I'm getting way off track right now. This is kind of derailed. I knew I should have written this in like an actual paper, like I would for, I don't know, my fucking writing class. But honestly, it's just not gonna get out if I do it like that. So I'm gonna show you guys a clip from an Asmongold stream where he talks about it. Like it's really just like a motivational piece. That's kind of all it is. It boils down to. But yeah, I'm just gonna roll the clip.
You can only rely on yourself, and you can only trust yourself, and you can only believe in yourself. Don't rely and wait for somebody else to give you a golden ticket. Print it yourself. This is the lesson I learned with Shadowmourne. Remember what I told you guys about how Talib got his Shadowmourne and then he stopped doing the runs? Because I expected somebody else to have my best interests in mind. I expected somebody else to go out of their way to have my best interests in mind. And I learned the hard way that wasn't the case. And that was an important lesson that I learned that I never forgot. While you're comparing it to WoW? Absolutely.
Okay, so I definitely need to go over kind of the context of this clip because I was watching this back and what I selected was good and it's the important bits, but it lacks the context. Um, so this was a video that Asmon put out, or his clips channel. I don't know exactly who controls it. Um, he put out a video titled, "This is what Asmongold had to say about why people envy him and why they shouldn't." Um, and there was some guy who posted some Reddit thread saying basically he's got a life and a full-time job and all this other shit and he's too busy to play, but sometimes he wishes he could be like Asmonbald and be this neckbeard basically, uh, like be able to live the degenerate lifestyle. I mean, to be fair, he's actually very successful for himself, so I don't know. But the essence of what he kind of stands for is a very degenerate lifestyle, right? Um, and then the conversation kind of moves on about halfway through the video, and they begin to talk about how like people are struggling to get jobs that give them what they want, and they feel like they've been cheated, I guess. Like they kind of deserve some help or whatever. I'm probably muddying the details a little bit. I watched it a while ago, but that was the important bit, was the idea that he really subscribed to the idea that um, you will eventually be successful. Like, yeah, some people will have the privilege to have more help from other people, but it is very possible to do it on your own. There's so much in this game that like, or so many people in this game who are even more successful than me, and I don't think they'd ever have like accepted contraband, right? They've approached the game with a really healthy mindset, and they've played probably consistently for the past like 2 3 years. However long Skyblock has been up, I don't even know, to be honest, but either that or they cheated. Um, but that's another topic. Either way, you can definitely get it on your own, right? Because think about it. When you start out, like the first people to play F7 had to do it without a Hyperion. And nowadays it's like, oh, you play tank or you get 4 hype mages and carry you, like, what do you mean? Doing F7 without F7 gear? That's insane. Like, and people will try and talk about that, but they talk about balance changes and how there's bugs that existed over, like back then. You know, you could fly in dungeons, like fly in boss room. You could do all sorts of damage with old Hyperion and this and that. And I'm like, no, that's there's also a million more talismans in the game now than there was back then. There's generally like better knowledge about how all that works, so like people are gonna come into it knowing a bit more. Additionally, there's like Jujubo exists. Like, there's really no excuse um, to not just go and do it yourself. Like, content does get easier with time. If you think about it, like, for example, Kata XP is much easier to get than it used to be, right? And that's kind of why we have this whole thing where you originally Kata like 24, 25, that's kind of when you would switch to F7. This was before Dungeon Rex, right? I remember I was playing as a Midas Mage on my old account. Um, at Kata 25 and F7, and I was really bad at it. We were getting like really garbage runs, but like it didn't matter, right? Because like eventually I was gonna drop a handle, and I did eventually. Those are old handle drop rates, but the concept translates pretty well. Um, so I guess I should probably sum up what I'm saying here. Basically, it's this meme right here. It's take it easy, dude, but take it. And it's pretty corny, but I think it's important. I'm leaving this up for 20 seconds on the video. Because I think this is actually important. And the idea is like, yeah, you shouldn't like necessarily sweat more than you're willing, right? And when you get tired of the game, you should stop. But like, if you really want to improve, like, you can stop when you get bored and come back the next day, and keep on doing that, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. Um, and if you turn to something like IRL trading or blatantly cheating, and you're gonna get banned or something like that, I guess the whole cheaters get banned is another very debated subject. Um, a very small amount of cheaters get banned. It's dumb cheaters who get banned, realistically, if you want the truth. But anyway, a lot of people I've seen turn to like IRL trading and stuff and get banned for that, and they end up just losing a ton of progress. It's not worth it. Like, I would say you'll have way more self-fulfillment as well from completing the game naturally. But yeah, take it easy, but take it. That is probably the biggest point of advice that I can give. Okay, so yeah, that was definitely a lot. I'm gonna do a really, really brief summary here. I'm gonna talk about like the four main issues that Skyblock players face. I would say I never really made a thesis about this or anything, but I would say probably the four takeaways, I guess. If you didn't watch any of the rest of the video, sometimes people try and min-max too hard, and they try and theory craft, and they end up skipping important parts of the game. Some people burn themselves out by playing way too much. Other people play casually and expect to get the same results as somebody who really sweats. And then other people, this is kind of along with the first one, but they meta hop a lot, right? And they invest all of their coins into one thing and get bored of that and move over to something else, and that's really bad. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. You can see right now I am currently switched over to one of my stream overlays. I've got all my chat right here on the side. I do some of that on the side, probably twice a week, 3 times a week for a couple hours. I used to do it a bit more, but lately I've been slowing down with Skyblock. I've got a lot of school stuff to do, but definitely more than happy to answer any questions in there. It's even less structured than this, so if you looked at this video and said, wow, this guy really needs to take this idea and maybe write an actual paper about it in like a proper script, and do it, maybe my Twitch isn't the place for you. I'll be honest, because I end up zoning out pretty frequently unless if I've got that kind of like constant nagging of chat. So I'll just say whatever's on my mind, really. uh, Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not going to keep this video rolling any longer. Check out the Twitch if you're interested, and I will see you next time.